and then they don't get together. It's like, wait. We just won. That was it. What more clear, like, hey, I like you, could you ever need? Okay, so I probably titled this video with an insane hyperbole. I want to say, whatever I put for the title, I have a good idea of what I did. I believe 80% of that, alright? Romance manga and anime. I'm gonna be using manga and anime interchangeably. Jesus. Okay, so with that out of the way, I'm usually not very educated on videos, alright? I will say things about shows, but like, I'm not the biggest expert on those shows or whatever. Like, unless I'm talking about Naruto, I know a good amount about Naruto. I'm not a big, I would say, scholar in most of these shows. I don't watch anime that much. I just really enjoy it, and whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this. With romance manga and anime, I would consider myself as close as I can be to an expert. I've read a good amount of them, although there probably is a lot that I haven't read, but I've read enough where I can see the trend and I can see the tropes and I can tell this one's good and this one's bad. A couple of the ones I've read, just so you can get a reference point as to what I'm going to be referencing to during the rest of this video, is Kaguya-sama Love is War, Yankee-kun and the White Cane Girl, the Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses. Sorry, the Japanese name is here for some reason. Our Dating Story, The Experienced You and the Unexperienced Me. I know it sounds weird, but that one's actually one of the better ones. My Dress Up Darling, which I'm gonna have a lot to say about later. A lot to say about. God, does that show get under my skin? I Favor the Villainess, Negakun and Posey-chan. Yes, that's the name of one of them. You and I Are Polar Opposites. I'm reading Please Don't Bully Me, Miss Nagatoro. The guy she was interested in wasn't a guy at all. I know some of these names are weird. I'm gonna stop name. Oh my god, these two are so. Please Go Home Misakatsu, which is really good. A bit weird, but really good. And My Charms Are Wasted on Kurikawa Mirika. Oh my god. So, before I get into any of these shows, that's just a list of a few that I've read. There are more, but just so you know, I've read a good amount of these manga. I've seen a good amount of these animes. I'm not going to start listing off animes because I'm going to be here all fucking day. I'm going to go step by step on how all of these kind of play out because all of them follow a similar formula. And I'm going to give you what I love and why I keep reading them, and what I despise and why after a while I just drop them or I don't keep up with them anymore, or I do keep up with them, but every time I do, I hop in a Discord call and complain for 30 minutes about everything that happens in every chapter. I have a set of notes. I have it on my tablet here. I have bullet points where I will see the bullet point and remember what I'm going to talk about and then talk about it. One of the bullet points just says the start. The start of every romance manga is amazing. Usually, they really nail the start of the mangas. So what'll happen is there'll be character A, usually, not always, but usually character A is a lonely or socially unaccepted male. Then, character B gets introduced to character A. Usually, it's the very socially acceptable, very outward looking popular female. Character B usually interacts somehow through coincidence or through some sort of unforeseen circumstance with character A. And then some things happen and character A and B decide we want to spend more time with each other and the chemistry starts to form. And while this is very formulaic, and there's a problem within this format that I'm going to talk about later, it's usually very interesting to watch, and you get all those cute butterflies in your stomach. You're like, oh my god, they're so cute. They're going to get together. Now, the one of the problems I'm going to state with this right now is they're not going to get together. It just doesn't happen. They'll set up in the first couple chapters, they'll set up this like big romance that might happen, and it will never pay off. It's like somebody saying, "Hey, I have a surprise for you. I'm gonna come home, and you're gonna get the surprise." And then you're like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited. They have a surprise for me. I feel so special. I'm so excited. And then they get home and they're like, "Oh, that surprise I talked about? Yeah, no, actually, it's getting to you next year." And you're like, "Wait, why would you tell me this morning that you're gonna have a surprise for me if you're not gonna give me the surprise until next year? Who in their right mind does that? I'll tell you who. Every single mangaka that writes these fucking mangas. I will say though, two honorable mentions that don't do this is Blooming Love. That one is pretty good and in my opinion does a somewhat adult-like relationship. Our dating story, The Experienced You and the Unexperienced Me, I can't recommend that one enough. It's not an adult relationship like per se, but it doesn't do this trope at least, which is nice. And then there's another one if I can remember the name. A Sign of Affection. That one also doesn't do the whole like very delayed payoff thing. And that one I feel like actually per, uh predicts. That one I feel like actually portrays what an actual adult relationship would look like as best as anime can, if that makes sense. So, one of my big problems is the very delayed payoff. You're sometimes waiting 300 chapters for these characters to get together, and I'm not over exaggerating. You are waiting years for these characters to just hold hands. It's ridiculous. It brings me to my very next complaint about this very trope. Remember when I said character B, the female, usually very popular, usually always interacts with character A, the male, very unpopular, usually pretty lonely. This goes into the manic pixie girl trope. I think that's what it's called. It's essentially what the manic pixie trope is, or the way I understand it at least, is what'll happen is you have this male insert yourself character, meaning the male character is used for the audience, usually male, to insert themselves into the main character. The main character usually doesn't have any defining traits that make him like very distinguishable from the average person. They're usually overtly lonely, which makes it so you lonely males can very much insert themselves into this character because their entire personality trait is just being lonely. And what'll happen is that this character trait, where you can insert yourself very cleanly because they're a very plain character, an example of this is Gojo from My Dress Up Darling. The dude, while I do like the show, the dude doesn't have much of a personality outside of a hobby that he has, making Hina dolls, and him being lonely and liking a girl. Those are the only two character traits he has. He's a very self-insert character. The manic pixie girl thing comes in when this female that is usually the popular girl that's very pretty that everyone wants comes in and breaks all social norms, meaning this girl comes up and starts randomly talking to somebody that she doesn't know. She starts randomly touching somebody that she's never talked to in her life, and she starts giving random advice or trying to be overly kind to, again, someone who she's never met in her life. And this is a girl with a shit ton of friends, with a shit ton of I want to say resources, because honestly, if you have a lot of friends and very popular in school, those aren't technically resources. But this is a person that seems sociably fine. They have nothing wrong with them, and then they just randomly come in and try to fix a lonely male. That's the manic pixie girl trope. It's a trope where guys believe that there's just gonna be this girl that's gonna show up one day, bust down the door, and be like, "Oh my God, I'm in love with you because you're lonely." And that's pretty much it. And now I'm gonna do everything I can to try to fix you. And the main character only gets better, only fixes their loneliness, only fixes their social awkwardness because of the girl, because the girl came in and fixed all of their problems for them. I know that's an oversimplification of it, but that's usually what happens in these mangas. I can name so many. My Dress Up Darling is one of them. Marin comes in and just basically upends Gojo's life. It makes it so he understands his hobby better, Hina dolls and stuff. It makes it so he's more sociable. It makes it so he talks to people more. It makes it so he's braver. He's able to stand up to people more because Marin is there next to him. And it sets this really, really bad precedent where now, because lonelier people would stay home and watch these animes and stuff, they're just gonna be like, oh, I just have to wait until the love of my life walks into a classroom and fixes all my problems for me or loves me unconditionally, even though I haven't done anything. They have to love me because I'm lonely and sad. Like, I know it sounds really harsh, but like, I feel like it's so harmful for these mangas to set these precedents, and it's very annoying now when I'm catching it. Because the first time, my Dress Up Darling was like, and I'm dogging on Dress Up Darling. Hold on. Other mangas do this too. Like My Charms Are Wasted on Mirika Kurakawa. Even Please Go Home Misakatsu, which I like, does this a bunch. The guy she was interested wasn't a guy at all, does this. Don't Bully Me, Miss Nagatoro definitely does this. What else? I Favor the Villainess, kind of. A bunch of these mangas do this. And it sets a very harmful precedent where guys now, because they watch all of this fiction and they believe for some reason that this translates into real life, believe, oh, I can just be sad and lonely, and then someone will unconditionally just love me eventually. That's not how it works. Relationships are difficult, and you need communication skills, which is going to be my next point. And nobody's going to just break all social norms and act completely out of the realm of how any normal person acts to fix you. That's not going to happen. And I really hate how these animes enforce that could happen. The next point, which I alluded to earlier, God, this is probably going to be such a long video. I have so much to say about this. The miscommunication aspect of all of these shows. So, in lieu of actual relationship problems, which some of them do have, what'll usually happen is, I'm assuming, I'm gonna like try to mind read the mangakas here real quick. What I'm assuming is happening is that the mangakas don't know how to make any conflict after 150 fucking chapters or so. So what they'll do is they will make the most basic miscommunication error, they'll stretch that out for like 5 chapters because they make it so the characters never have an adult conversation, and it's the most frustrating and most artificial way to create a problem in a relationship. Let me see if I can come up with examples. In Misakatsu, which again, I really like this one, and this one doesn't do it as bad as other ones, there will be a miscommunication. Let's see if I can think of an example. One person says, hey, I have these 2 tickets to go to an aquarium. I just got these off of a random person. Do you want to come with me? I mean, I have no one else to go to this aquarium with. And then the other person will go, oh my god, in their head, obviously, because they don't say things out loud. They'll go, oh my god, they're asking me on a date. Oh my god. And then they start being very awkward, and then the first person realizes, oh my god, I just asked them on a date. And instead of being reasonable, not even adults, just reasonably thinking people, instead of just one of them asking, it's like, oh, is this a date you're asking me on? Or like, should I get dressed up for this? Or like, instead of having a conversation, what'll actually happen is the person trying to give the other person the tickets will be like, oh, wait, never mind. I don't know, like, I mean, I thought I had another friend to go with, I don't know if you get the wrong idea, sorry, I forgot, I have to go do something, oh my god, I have to go do this thing, and then they leave, and then they don't talk about it for the rest of the chapter, and then for the next 5 chapters, this is the thing now, this is like, oh my god, was he asking me out on a date? Oh my god, I shouldn't have rejected her. I should have just said I want to go on a date. And then at the end of the 5 chapters, they were like, they come clean. They're like, oh, I wanted to go on this date with you. Like, can you go with me? And they'll be like, yeah. It doesn't need to take 5 chapters. It could have just been the next panel where they're like, oh, I guess I was asking you out on a date. Would you like to go on a date? Like, I know it probably doesn't make for as interesting of a story, but why can't you make your story interesting in an actual way that makes sense? To me, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, us us talking past each other doesn't work. We're trying to talk to each other. So if I'm if I'm asking somebody something and they're communicating something that maybe I don't understand, I'm gonna be like, hey, do you mean this thing? And then that'll be the end of it. It doesn't need to take 5 days. It doesn't need to be this stretched out, but it always is. And I'm pretty sure it's just because they can't think of an actual thing to make the manga interesting, and they just pad it out for time with these stupid miscommunication errors that make zero sense and no actual person would go through. Now, I want to caveat this by saying sometimes the miscommunication stuff is cute. Like if it's something really cute and it only lasts for a bit, I'm fine with it. There's miscommunications in actual relationships. I'm not saying there's not. What I am saying is that something very small and very stupid that can be solved by a normal conversation usually doesn't get dragged out for fucking like 10 chapters, or like in real lifetime it would be like a month of just not sitting down and talking to a partner that you have. It boggles my mind. But sometimes the miscommunication is adorable. It's cute. So I'm gonna like caveat that I still like romance animes. All right, I'm gonna get into some positives here soon. Now this trope I don't get a lot of, because I don't really read the type of romance manga that this trope is present in. Meaning harems. I do not read harems. I don't know why anyone does. They seem very boring and very annoying because there's not a singular love interest. And I don't know about you, but when I have a love interest in real life, there's usually not five other people trying to get into my pants. And I'm usually not trying to get into the pants of five other people. It's usually just the one. So I don't read harems, but I did read a manga that had this trope in it recently, and it's pissing me off because I used to really like this manga, and then they introduced this. It's the love triangle, or the love hexagon or something. There's so many people that are in love with this. The manga I'm talking about is My Charms Are Wasted on Kurikawa Mirika. There's this guy, Mirika, and for some reason, every woman he meets just immediately falls in love with him. He doesn't do anything. He's a monk. He barely talks to people. They just fall in love with him. And it was really cute when it was the one girl, and when it was like the two girls, it's like, oh, I guess they're competing, and it kind of makes sense. When it becomes four girls, and now possibly five girls, now it's annoying. I don't see how people enjoy these type of things. Maybe I'm just ignorant. Like I said, I haven't watched or read a lot of these mangas, but I think it's very stupid when it's so clear, because usually these mangas, it's so clearly set up that there's the one girl that's supposed to be with them, that this is the one that's supposed to happen. But if this is the one that the show is clearly setting up where they're supposed to get together, why on God's green earth is there four other girls? I don't understand that. But moving on from this point, because there's only one manga that I read that actually has this trope on it. This one, this one, this one really pissed me off. The constant will they, won't they trope. It's present in every romance manga, and to a certain extent, it is interesting because I don't know what it is about whenever people get together, people lose interest pretty quickly. What romance mangas will do to get around this is they'll have characters get together, but they won't have them do the lovey-dovey stuff immediately. They'll have it so, oh, we're dating, but it takes us 20 chapters to hold hands, or it takes us 30 chapters to kiss, or something like that. And I think that's pretty sweet, and I think I like that one better than the will they won't they, but I can see why people like the pulling in and pulling apart. But there's manga where the will they won't they makes sense. Like in, let's pull out a random example here. Like in Kaguya-sama Love is War, probably one of the better romance mangas that I've read. The characters don't get together because they have like psychological problems that they're working through, and they don't want the other person to come in and make it so they're a burden to them. It makes sense whether or not to get it. It may not seem like this in the first season. It seems pretty like just stupid games in the first season, but eventually you come to realize that the reason these people haven't actually gotten together is because of deep psychological problems. Like both of them are pretty in their own head, and they don't want the other person to have to deal with that, which is a very, very reasonable and understandable will they won't they dynamic, and it's very interesting. But then there's shows like My Love Story with Yamada Level 100. There's a scene in this show that boiled my blood. I stopped watching it after this. I haven't finished this show. It's like, how are you giving your opinion about a show? I'm not giving my opinion on the show. I'm giving my opinion on the singular scene from the show. In the show, the love interest and the guy and the love interest, the girl, or I guess the girl's the main character and the guy's the love interest, were sitting with their friends, and one of their friends made a joke like, "Oh, why don't you just date her?" And then the dude laughed it off because he was like, "Haha, funny joke. I guess I would." He didn't mean it. He was joking because he knew that the other guy was joking. But the girl got super embarrassed and ran away, and the guy chased after her because he likes her. And they meet up, and she's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have gotten that mad. I'm embarrassed," which that was nice. That's pretty an adult thing to do, to take responsibility, that you shouldn't have lost control of your emotions. And then the dude was like, "Yeah, no, it's fine," and then starts walking away. The girl stops him and goes, "Wait. Let's suppose, hypothetically speaking, our friend wasn't kidding. Um, would you still say like you would date me?" And then the dude goes, "Yeah, it'd be an honor, actually. I feel like you're always something that I can't reach." And then he starts walking away. At that moment, the show should end. It's over. They're together now because the guy just said like, "Yeah, I date you. I feel like you're amazing." But the girl goes, "Oh," and then they walk away, and then the show keeps going. And then they don't get together. It's like, wait. We just won. That was it. What more clear? Like, hey, I like you. Could you ever need that? It boiled my blood. It's insane. You should have just gotten together at that point. Oh, I guess that also ties into the miscommunication thing, but this one was like outstandingly like, do you guys not speak English? Like, what happened? That scene alone made me stop watching the show. But I think that's like most of what I wanted to talk about. There's also like a slight thing of which I don't care too much about this because I know how anime is. But there's a slight thing where it's kind of hard to recommend these romance mangas to people. Like, I wanted to recommend Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai to my mother because that show is probably one of the best shows I've seen in my life. It is extremely emotional and I know she would love it, but I said the name to her and she goes, "Jeremy, what are you trying to get me to watch?" Okay? And I go, "You know what? Fair." And in the show, there's a lot of weird stuff. That's my point here. Romance mangas, especially, they're very weird sometimes. There'll be a lot of fan service, which if you don't know what that is, you probably do. It's when, for some reason, the female characters will just show skin for no reason, and they call it fan service because it's servicing the fans that want to see animated nude women, I guess. There'll be a lot of that. There'll be a lot of weird jokes. There'll be a lot of weird names. So recommending this stuff to people is weird because they'll see that and they'll be like, "This is gross. What did you just show me?" It sucks because a lot of these shows will have these aspects, but deep, like if you keep watching them and understand them, they're amazing shows. They're with such deep and really useful tips on life and on relationships, but they're masked by boobs and ass. So it kind of sucks when you're recommending this stuff to people because sometimes it can get a bit weird. But like I said, these shows usually are really good at certain parts, but then these tropes will come up and then ruin all the really good parts. But that's why they're so addicting because you start watching and it's really good, it's really good, stupid trope, and then you get super, super angry, and it gets you engaged, and then after you're super angry, a really nice or sweet or impactful thing will happen, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is the best show ever." It's like the love-hate thing. You're like on the line for love and hate. It's a trip, all right? So this is my long rant on romance animes that nobody's gonna watch. Anyways, I hope you had a good morning. Like and subscribe, and I will see you. Bye.